Turn the mic on. Truth in the building. No filters. No politics. No apologies. Dr. Ken, let's go. We don't quit till the whole thing shake. Truth hit hard, make the whole world wait. Real talk loud when the system fade. Stand tall, even when the whole ground break. No fear, no foe, no retreat. Pressure make diamonds when the fire meet heat. All gas, no brakes. When the truth gon' speak, Dr. Ken in the booth.
Truth don't sleep.
Came from the bottom when survival was a law. Learn real quick what respect really costs. Everybody got opinions from afar, but they ain't never had to carry those scars. Built from pressure, discipline, pain. Some lose focus, some lose aim. Some sell souls just to chase that fame. I build my brick by brick, no shame. See the world get weak when they need a moment. Too many followers pretending they friends. Too many loudmouths scared to defend any real conviction when the pressure set in. But I stand on business, stand on code, stand on truth when the lies explode. Some fold up when the road gets cold. Some become legends when the story gets told. We don't quit till the whole thing shake. Truth hit hard, make the whole world wait. Real talk loud when the system fades. Stand tall, even when the whole ground breaks. No fear, no foe, no retreat. Pressure make diamonds when the fire meet heat. All gas, no brakes. When the truth gon' speak, Dr. Ken is on.
Truth don't sleep.
Frank. Candid.
Straight to the point.
If nobody else gon' say it, I will. Yeah. Mic check, truth coming live again. Built for the storm, I don't hide from wind. Everybody tough when the lights are bright. Different story when it's dark outside at 10. I done seen pride make kings collapse. Seen weak minds get trapped in traps. Seen good people never fight back. Seen fake leaders disappear too fast. So I speak for the workers, speak for the tired, speak for the people still trying to climb higher. Speak for the ones still building through fire, trying to lead this world better than prior. And if the truth hurt, let it hurt a little. Growth don't happen staying safe in the middle. Either build your life or become a riddle. Either move the crowd or get played like fiddle. We don't quit till the whole thing shake. Truth hit hard, make the whole world wait. Real talk loud when the system fades. Stand tall, even when the whole ground break. No fear, no foe, no retreat. Pressure make diamonds when the fire meet heat. All gas, no brakes. When the truth gon' speak, Dr. Ken in the booth.
Truth don't sleep.
Dr. Ken's truth. Frank, Dr. Ken's truth. Dr. Ken's truth. Dr. Ken's truth. Frank, candid.
Straight to the point, to the point.
Good evening, good afternoon, and, well, good morning, depending on when you're listening to this. My video was looking kind of weird. Anyway, you're listening to Dr. Ken's Truth. I am your host, Dr. Ken Harris. And let me do a little bit of adjusting. Let me see. Did I get it? All right, I got it. All right, so welcome. Today, I am not doing my top 5 before 5. So before everybody gets all upset and mad and starts running me out the door or off the screen or out of your phone, I got a couple of topics I want to talk about. One is kind of a rant, and then the other one I said I was going to talk about the history of socialism and what's going on and all that stuff. I want to say welcome to everyone. I want to address something that Curly Q just said. Babar said that he'd be falling asleep around 3:45 in the afternoon, and I said, set an alarm. Yeah, I was calling you out because you was missing yesterday. So, to let you know you're missed. Want to say what's up to Todd, our substitute sergeant at arms. Well, he's not substitute. He's a sergeant at arms. He's the number 2 in this doohickey thing we call Dr. Ken's Truth every Monday through Thursday at 4. I am going to be doing a bonus tomorrow. Just so you know, I will be here. Tomorrow going to be Pop-Off Friday. I have so much stuff I want to pop off about, but I want to talk about what I want to talk about. So, I'm gonna do a bonus tomorrow because everybody been screaming and so I said I'll do it. So I'll do it. I want to say what's up to Todd. What's going on? We still praying for Kwanda. She lost her brother, so we're gonna be praying for her this week and probably the next couple of weeks or so. So want to say that. Hey, Curly Q, what's going on? How you doing? What's up, Babar? Babar say this show on yet? Geez, where else I'm gonna get my news and weather from? Speaking of weather, let me see if I can find some weather for Babar, because if I got to hear it again, he goes, I got to hear it from him. So, I got to talk about weather. 79 degrees, feels like 79, 0 chance of rain. The high today was 82. The low is 61. The sunset is at 7:46 in the PM. About 4 a.m. we'll hit around 63, 61 degrees. So we'll be hitting that low at about 6 a.m. and then the temperature will pick back up. So those are some things we got to be looking at. I'll be traveling tomorrow, so if I'm a little late, don't beat me up. Don't scream at me and holler, "Oh my God, you're late!" and all that stuff, right? Friday, they're talking about morning showers. 47% chance. High is 78. Saturday, partly cloudy and 77. You got your weather, Babar? You good? You good? All right. Let me go back through. I can't believe he said he'd fall asleep around 3:45. Anyway, Sincere, what's going on? How's it going? You on the road or you in the city? What's going on? Who else did I say? Hey, Lucretia, what's going on? Study hall is here. Everybody's here. Hey, Kathleen. Kathleen said, game's on. Go Brewers, missing Dr. Ken's show tomorrow because I'll be at 3:10 game. Good afternoon to everyone out there. Hey, I know that's right. Yep, let me see. Jasmine, Jazz West, what's going on? How are you? So everything's going great. Everything is looking pretty cool. I was listening to the radio this morning, and it was interesting. I was listening to radio. I was listening to News Talk, 1130 WISN. I'm gonna say it out there. There's no need to cry, and it's not a bash on the station and all that. I used to work there, but years ago, three decades ago, and I heard a discussion. The host was Benjamin Yount. And later, the news anchor, the host, and he's a host as well, Jason Gotch, I think I'm saying his name right, about the Wisconsin governor's race. And listen, I expect opinions from talk radio. That's what we did. It's part of the format. Conservative talk radio is conservative. Liberal talk radio is liberal. Hosts have viewpoints. Audiences generally know the viewpoints, and there's really nothing inherently wrong at all with political commentary having a point of view. Back in the day, like I said, I was a weekend producer at WISN Radio. But there should be a line between commentary and news. And there is even more a fundamental line that should apply to both. The discussion this morning centered on the disturbances and the fights that happened during the closing hours, as they do every year at Wisconsin State Fair. How they don't take care of that, I don't know. Republican gubernatorial nominee Tom Tiffany had already injected into the incident. He put it in the governor's race by basically saying Democratic nominee and Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley wasn't doing his job, basically. That's my paraphrase, not his. According to a published reporting, Tiffany posted, "This is Milwaukee County under David Crowley. Crime, chaos, at least one officer punched." Now, he continued to argue that Crowley's leadership had failed Milwaukee County and that the voters should not allow him to fail Wisconsin. That was from the Wisconsin Examiner. He reported on those remarks on the 17th. Today is the 20th. Now, that certainly makes for a sharp political attack. But there's a significant problem with that. State Fair Park is now run by Milwaukee County. The name should provide the first clue. Wisconsin State Fair Park, not Milwaukee County Fair Park, not David Crowley Park. It is Wisconsin State Fair Park. More importantly, it didn't mere semantics. Wisconsin State Fair Parks, their own official description on their website says plainly that the State Fair Park Board is an agency of the state of Wisconsin. Its board of directors provide fiscal oversight and direction, and the CEO and State Fair Park staff are responsible for day-to-day operations. Its employees are state of Wisconsin employees. Note Wisconsin State Fair Park. The board says that it governs State Fair Park pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes Chapter 42 and the State Fair Administrative Code. 13-member board includes state legislators, other officials. It has a chairperson, and they are appointed by the governor of Wisconsin. It's from the Wisconsin State Fair website. Now, here's especially an important fact when the political argument concerns public safety. State Fair Park has its own police department. Got that? Wisconsin State Fair Park Police Department operates at the park 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and the park identifies its own police chief, maintains its own law enforcement policies. State Fair policies likewise place substantial authority for safety and conduct with who? State Fair Park officials, including the CEO, executive director, and chief of police. Now, I know, because I used to work there. That is how it works. These facts do not mean Milwaukee County government has no interest whatsoever in what happens there, because it's inside its geographical boundaries. Nor do they mean a Milwaukee County executive should be forbidden from commenting on youth, violence, behavior, public safety, all that stuff. But they do mean something simpler. Geography is not governance. Something occurring geographically within Milwaukee County does not automatically make Milwaukee County government responsible for operating, policing, or managing the property where it happened. And I think that distinction matters. Imagine applying that logic somewhere else. Suppose federal law enforcement officers conducted operation inside the city of Milwaukee, and they have dealt with a judge. Would we automatically blame the Milwaukee Police Department for every operational decision the federal agents made simply because the operation happened inside Milwaukee? Of course not. Suppose someone from Milwaukee County were convicted of a federal crime and sentenced by a U.S. District Court judge. Will we blame Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office for the federal sentencing? Of course not. The government entity with jurisdiction matters. Authority matters. Responsibility matters. This is high school civics 101. Yet somehow, once campaign season arrives, those distinctions just remarkably disappear really fast. Tiffany's actual published statement is important because this is not simply somebody interpreting what he meant. He said this Milwaukee County under David Crowley. That was in the Washington Examiner. This is a politically powerful sentence because it establishes an association in the listener's mind. State Fair Park violence, Milwaukee County, David Crowley. But voters should ask whether that chain accurately identifies governmental responsibility. You know, people in the out counties, they don't know. State Fair Park's own description of its governance strongly complicates that implication. It's a state agency governed by the State Fair Park Board, administered by its executive staff, served by its own police department. That doesn't tell voters whether Crowley is good or bad as a county executive. It doesn't tell voters whether Tom Tiffany would be a good governor or bad governor. What it tells us, much narrower and more importantly, to this particular controversy, is that the State Fair Park is not a county government facility simply because it's inside Milwaukee County. A candidate for governor should actually understand that distinction. And a news organization discussing the accusation should actually explain it. And that's where my problem with WISN radio comes. Talk show hosts advocate, I understand that if Benjamin Yount supports conservative candidates or conservative policies, listeners can evaluate his commentary accordingly. Political talk radio has never pretended to be a graduate seminar in detached political science. My concern becomes considerably greater when political framing migrates from commentary into what is presented as news. According to what I heard this morning, Crowley was criticized for recently speaking without addressing state fair disturbances. And I watched TV, and a reporter confronted him about the matter. But that raises the question the news report should have answered. Why should Crowley be uniquely accountable for an incident at a state-controlled facility with its own governing board, its own administration, and its own police department? Ask Crowley about it. Absolutely. He's running for governor. Ask Tiffany about it too. But then Tiffany, if you ask him, the obvious follow-up is Congressman, Wisconsin State Fair Park is a state agency with its own governing board and police department. Why are you characterizing an incident there as Milwaukee County under David Crowley? Now, that would be an act of journalism. The reporter doesn't need to defend Crowley. Reporter doesn't need to attack Tiffany. The reporter needs to introduce the inconvenient fact and make the politician explain the apparent discrepancy. All of this is bigger than Tom Tiffany. All of this is bigger than David Crowley. My objection is to the political narratives being allowed to substitute for governmental reality. I am not supporting a candidate for governor at this time. I want to hear him. I want to hear what Crowley intends to do. I want to hear what Tom Tiffany tends to do. I want both of them challenged. And I especially want journalists to challenge whichever candidate they happen to agree with. That last part is important. Journalism isn't tested when a reporter interrogates a politician he dislikes. Journalistic independence is tested when the facts become inconvenient to the politician he likes. And if Crowley makes a misleading statement, challenge Crowley. Tom Tiffany makes a misleading statement, challenge Tiffany. Republican, Democrat, Independent, Democratic, Socialist, I don't care. I do care. But just don't tell me that something is someone's governmental responsibility when their organizational structure says otherwise. That is a lie. But there's another issue beneath this. Milwaukee has become an extraordinarily convenient political symbol. Talk about crime, Milwaukee. Talk about taxes, Milwaukee. Talk about schools, Milwaukee. Government dysfunction, Milwaukee. Need something scary for voters anywhere else in Wisconsin? All you got to do is use the word Milwaukee, south of Highway 60. But Wisconsin cannot simultaneously treat Milwaukee as the state's problem and then depend on us as one of its economic engines. The contradiction deserves a lot more scrutiny. State leaders of both parties should be required to explain why they believe Milwaukee contributes to Wisconsin, what state revenue is generated here, what state investments return here, they don't, and how their policies would affect the economic relationship between Wisconsin and Milwaukee. These are substantive questions, and conservatives who criticize redistribution should be especially prepared to explain fiscal arrangements in which economically productive metropolitan areas, Milwaukee, generates revenue that support public services everywhere else in the state. Likewise, Democrats don't get a free pass either. Just because they represent Milwaukee, they should have to demonstrate that Milwaukee residents are receiving competent, efficient, and accountable government for the taxes they pay. Accountability should work for everybody. So if you belong to a civic organization or a neighborhood association, a church, a professional association, business or fraternity, sorority, D9, service club, community group, don't matter. Invite David Crowley and Tom Tiffany. You don't necessarily have to invite them together. Give each man the room, give each man the microphone, and ask them the questions. What will you do for Milwaukee? What will you do for rural Wisconsin? How will you address public safety? What responsibilities belong to cities? What belongs to the county? What belongs to the state? Because clearly, some people here in Wisconsin in the media don't know. How will Milwaukee's economic contribution to Wisconsin factor into your administration? Also, you want to ask, what do you believe Milwaukee gets wrong? What do you believe Milwaukee gets right? And probably more importantly, when you criticize another elected official, can you demonstrate that the thing you're criticizing is actually under that official's authority? Now that seems a pretty low bar for somebody that actually wants to be governor. Political opinion is fine. Factual sloppiness, not so much. Tom Tiffany has every right to criticize David Crowley's record. David Crowley has every right to criticize Tom Tiffany's record. Benjamin Yount has every right to offer conservative political commentary. And WISN, just like every other radio station in Wisconsin and the world, has every right to program its station however they choose. But I have a right too. I have the right to decide who I trust. And for me, credibility in a newscast disappears quickly when political framing overwhelms elementary facts, basic facts about who actually controls what. Now, maybe Tiffany believes State Fair incident reflects a broader cultural or public safety problem in Milwaukee County. And if that's his argument, make the argument. Maybe Crowley believes the incident exposes a statewide problem involving young people or security or violence. Make the argument, but don't blur governmental responsibility to make the political attack cleaner. State Fair Park is a state agency. It has a state-created governing board, its own administration, its own police department. I've said it before. These aren't Democratic facts. These aren't Republican facts. They're just facts. And facts ought to matter. Even during an election. Maybe especially during an election. Good afternoon. He's back. Let me check this YouTube chat to make sure everybody is acting right. Sheriff's Department has jurisdiction, but don't patrol. Actually, the Sheriff's Department does not have jurisdiction there. The Wisconsin State Fair Park Police have jurisdiction there. They are invited in and they lend assistance when asked, just like the State Patrol, Milwaukee, some of the suburbs, stuff like that. But for the most part, State Fair Park Police is responsible for safety there. So there's that. Camille, what's going on? Camille said, I'm here live. I'm on the live, baby. I made it. What's up, good people? Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's up, Willie? What's going? Todd said he should not have been. Is it the unwritten rule like MPD and the Sheriff's Department, city and deputies have parks and freeways? No, there's no unwritten. It's state property. So you got to, do what you do. Do what you do. LT, what's going on? It's really disheartening, especially when you put it in a news report and talk about as if, David Crowley is responsible for it. And I know you're a conservative radio station, and that's fine. I listen to pretty much a lot of radio, conservative, liberal, in the middle, libertarian, all that. But it just disturbs me when you do the news. I think you should do the news in an unbiased way, whether you're on a conservative station or not. And so when you include that in a newscast and intimate that a county executive is responsible for something that happens on state property because it's in their county, makes no sense. You should be blaming the Milwaukee Police Department because Wisconsin State Fair Park is in the city of Milwaukee. You should be blaming the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office because it's inside Milwaukee County, but they don't run it. Just like we can go into a park, Milwaukee police can go into a park. However, the park's jurisdiction is the county because it's a county park. They have jurisdiction. They come in and want to take there's a crime here. We'll take it. It's their prerogative. They get dispatched to parks. SC said, isn't West Dallas. Part of it is in West Dallas. Part of it is in Milwaukee. It's in both cities. It's in both cities. If I'm not mistaken, the office itself, that's a strange question. So the police department on the north end, I believe, is in Milwaukee, and on the south end, where the offices are, is in West Dallas. But anyway, I digress. It's in Milwaukee County, but it's state property. So it doesn't matter what city it's in. Doesn't matter what county it's in. It's state property, and the state has jurisdiction, and the state should be over it. But at some point, I think Tom Tiffany was incorrect in his assertion that it's David Crowley's fault. Now, I'm sure I'll get lambasted and, it's all, they'll just look at me and think, he's black, he's a Democrat. Not true. He sounds conservative, he's Republican. Not true. So at some point, some things just have to be unbiased. And I think they did a disservice to people, because now people in the outer parts of South, further south and west and north think that the fight was in Milwaukee, and it wasn't. LT said, just like our reputations can be tarnished by the actions of black people, apparently we're supposed to be responsible for their actions too, even though I was home in bed. Absolutely. You didn't know that? All black people, we are all the same. Haven't you been the only black person in the room and they ask you, do you know another black person? They're shocked that you don't. As if we know everybody, as if we're all cousins. Babar said, technically people just need to behave in public places, would need this much security. Well, there's a social contract we're supposed to have with each other that we won't harm each other or take each other's lives too, but we see that doesn't work. You're supposed to even do it for yourself, but yet you take drugs, drink too much, drive, have car crashes, all sorts of things, overdose. So, and I'm not victim blaming. I'm saying that that's just how life is. And if you act right, Babar is 100% correct. If you act right, you wouldn't need the police, but people don't. Curly said, the thing that gets me is when they see you somewhere and say, do you live around here? Why? The roads lead the same direction either way. Shaking my head. Somebody asked me that today. Do you live here? They always ask you that on Wauwatosa. Do you live here? I'm like, no. Then it's like, oh, like really? Weird. Just weird. But that's Wisconsin. It's weird. It's like Illinois. That's how y'all treat people from Illinois. So, I don't know. Even though I've lived here longer in Wisconsin than I have in Illinois, I still get treated like an outsider. So I act like an outsider. So, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Curly Q, you are absolutely right. All right, let me get in mind. So I want to talk about socialism. And we talk about the fact that we understand socialism, but do we really understand socialism? Do we really understand it? It's not a single ideology. And I'm going to skip through some of the stuff because I'm not going to keep it too long because we're not going to do top five before five. But it's developed over centuries. Thinkers, workers, politicians, everybody's written about it. We've heard about Mein Kampf and all that stuff. Governments have argued who should control or own the resources and institutions that produce society's wealth. And that's the argument, and that's the question at the crux of capitalism and socialism. Now, at its broadest, socialism favors greater social collective, cooperation, public control of economic resources, jobs, and seeks to reduce economic inequality. Now, I don't know how you're going to change that. I don't know how you fix that. Different socialist traditions disagree sharply over how much private property should remain, whether markets should continue, whether change should occur through election or revolution. Now, I'm going to put on my intellectual hat, right? Before the 1800s, Plato, he wrote The Republic, early Christian communities, Thomas More, a lot of those folks weren't necessarily socialists in the modern political sense. Modern socialism arose primarily to respond to economic and social change that came with what we call around 1900s, the Industrial Revolution. But if you look at like 1800 to around 1848, industrialization was created by, bringing in factories, rapidly growing cities. They've had movies about it in New York, where there were fights, the gangs of New York and fighting and all that stuff. Private people, 2 or 3 people like Carnegie and a couple other people had, mountains of private wealth, and they made all the money and the workers didn't have it. Thinkers like Henri de Saint-Simon, Charles Fourier, Robert Owen proposed alternatives based on cooperation. And what they said is equitable economic relationships. Now, if you know anything about equity, not everybody has the same mental capacity or intellect, right? If you're familiar with Karl Marx, he called those people utopian socialists because they tried to construct like an ideal community rather than explaining socialism primarily through class conflict and historical development. But then you had Marx and Engels. They kind of transformed sociology. Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, if you read some of the stuff they wrote, the Communist Manifesto, Marx developed his economic critique much more extensively in a book he wrote called Capital. Marx argued that history was profoundly shaped by class struggle. Under capitalism, society was divided between the bourgeoisie, I talked about it the other day, the rich, and the proletariat, who basically survived by selling their labor. A lot of people believe that today, and they think that we would be better off if we allowed that to occur. But I don't necessarily think so. But remember something, Marxism, socialism, communism, they're not exactly the same. If you want to look at socialism and communism is what I would call extreme socialism. But then it became a political movement around 1914. But one of the things we remember was the Russian Revolution, 1917. It changed what it meant to be socialist. In October of 1917, the Bolsheviks, led by this guy you've probably heard of named Vladimir Lenin, seized power, modified Marx's ideas significantly. Marx had expected socialist revolution to emerge primarily from advanced industrial capitalist societies, and Russia was pretty poor and agricultural. Lenin said that a disciplined revolutionary vanguard party could lead the working class in revolution. So they formed this place that we knew formerly called the the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, or the Soviet Union. The Soviet model featured extensive state ownership, centralized economic planning, Communist Party political control, and severe restrictions on political opposition. Joseph Stalin forced what's called collectivization, political regression, purges, imprisonment. State violence became a major feature of the Soviet system. And so that stayed in for decades until there was a revolution and the Soviet Union failed, and now we have Russia. Now, democratic socialism and a social democracy started in Western Europe. And so socialist parties gradually abandoned this revolutionary thing and killing people. And if you didn't agree, we'll cut your head off and shoot you and all kind of stuff like that. Putting them in gulags and locking them up and sending them off to Siberia and all that stuff. They changed all that. And so what they didn't understand is when you treat people a certain way, a revolution is going to occur. And we need to understand today that if you were to let a socialist, well, let me rephrase that, a democratic socialist become any type of politician, just like the Soviet Union had an incremental demise, so will America. Think of it like this: flock cameras. They say flock cameras are going to be used to catch criminals. If you ever hear anybody use a phrase like this or anything near it, you should run. If you are not committing a crime, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. You got your constitutional rights to worry about. You need to be careful about that. Marxist theory, the eventual classless and stateless society, historically, also the label applied to states governed by communist parties. These categories, they overlap. You know, socialists, communists, Marxists, all that. Political movements use different terms. So when you listen to a democratic socialist, they use different terms. After World War II, it spread globally. Communist governments got into South America, Cuba, Argentina, places like that. It got into China, and they became communists. And Vietnam, Korea, Africa, parts of Asia. But socialism outside Europe was often anti-colonialism, national independence. Leaders sometimes adopted socialist economic policies. Think of the stuff Mandami is trying to do in New York. So here's the weird thing. I want people to grow. I want people to have food. So instead of coming up with a store that undercuts the mom and pop groceries, it'll put them out of business, by the way, the mom and pop groceries. They're going to offer food. This is what he says he wants to try to do. He wants to offer food at 30% under market value. I'm okay with that for poor people. But in New York, they want to have it open so everybody can go there. So if everybody can go there, two issues arise. Mom and pop groceries, I'm going to go there and pay $1. I'm going to go to you, pay 70 cents. I'm going where the 70 cents is. I got a 30% discount. The other problem is when you run out of food, where do I go? Because eventually those other stores go out of business, and I'm only left with the government-run store, and the government-run store goes out of business or runs out of food, then what? So then you'll start to what? You'll start to ration. You can only get one hamburger or one burger per person in your family. And now you have to have documentation for one person and one burger. And next thing you know, because you have documentation, now we need cameras to confirm that you only have one. It'll trickle down to the same nonsense that happens in Russia today. And we have to be careful. We have to be careful. This Soviet style Marxism, Leninism, that stuff will not work. But then we got the Cold War, right? Remember the Cold War back before you were born, between 47 and like 91, before we went to Iraq. The Cold War transformed socialism into a geopolitical issue. The United States championed liberal democracy, market capitalism. Soviet Union promoted Marxism, Leninism, supported communist movements internationally, but that failed. Now, we've got some companies, and they're casually called socialists, Denmark and Sweden and Norway, but it's really not. By the 1980s, the Soviet economy had structural problems, as most socialist economies do, and it failed. Mikhail Gorbachev introduced glasnost, or greater openness, and perestroika, which is restructuring. How did that happen? He came to visit America and went into a grocery store and saw so many things that changed his way of thinking that he went back and brought this. Eventually, Soviet Union dissolved in 1991. And so now people are not open to really dealing with socialism. But then modern socialist politics cover a pretty broad spectrum. China continues to be governed by a communist party. They operate an economy containing extensive markets, private business, foreign investment, and state-owned enterprises. Does it work? Yeah, we'll see. European social democratic parties generally accept market economies while supporting welfare. But here in the US, which is more important, politicians and organizations use the term democratic socialists have renewed debate over stuff like college, healthcare, labor, taxation, housing, inequality, corporate power, all that stuff. That means that when someone today says socialism, the next question should be which one? Scandinavian, democratic, Marxist, Leninist, Marxism, market socialism, worker cooperative, Soviet central plan. Like, what are you talking about? You got the Industrial Revolution, you got early socialism, Marxism, social labor movements, Russian Revolution, Soviet communism, democratic socialism, social democracy. You had the Cold War, Soviet Union collapse, and now we're arguing about it, even here in Wisconsin, about democratic socialists. The conflict has remained consistent. How should society balance private property, the market, economic equality, collective responsibility, individual responsibility, individual liberty, and government power? Well, I believe the question is ultimately more useful than simply asking whether socialism is good or bad, because historical record contains radically different systems operating under what they call a socialist label. And we'll never be able to understand what all that is about unless you look at other countries that tried it and failed. So if you think about it, no matter what way they tried to use it, it has failed. Just go to Argentina, just go to Cuba, just go to Russia, go to parts of Africa. It's failed. If you graduated from high school and you hustle, you could become a millionaire. You can't do that under socialism. You can't do that in an area where you want everybody to be equal, because we're not. Some people went to school more than others. Every single person in this YouTube chat, every single person on Facebook, every single person on LinkedIn, I have to think about which one I was on, has their own unique ways of being unique. And it makes them powerful, and it makes them have the ability to do something that other people in their circle can't do. And in an economy, a capitalist economy, you can sell that and build a fortune. Is it going to be easy? No. But everybody has an equal chance. And I am an unabashed capitalist, not because this is where I grew up and this is where I live in America, but because I've seen the positive things that can happen. So let me check the YouTube chat before I get out of here. All right. Todd said, then the producers of food get paid less, then they don't produce products. They can't do it all. It all collapses. Yep. LT said a couple things I've noticed about communism is that there is still a ruling party, whether it be a family or a group of leaders who are still privy to the wealth, and they kill a lot of their own. Yeah, that's called communism. Yep. That's that Marxist-Leninist stuff. True D said Iron Curtain and Radio Free Europe. Yep. It's never worked anywhere that they tried it. And in the end, there's always the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, even in the Soviet Union. Everybody that's in, politics and the KGB and all that stuff, now it's the RSV, whatever it is. They all became the bourgeoisie. They all got more money. They all got more power. They got better living. But everybody else had to live in the same house, in the same structure, in the same type of apartment, making very little money. And it literally doesn't work. Jasmine Jazz West said, I love history lessons. Yeah. And it's scary. I want to do another history lesson on education. You know, MPS is going through. How did we get from Dewey in the 1900s and all these other folks to the public education that we have today? And why is it important that we know and understand public education? It is important that we start to understand and know exactly what public education does for us and what it doesn't do, what it was started for. So are you still thinking of having the D9 series? Oh, most definitely. Oh, most definitely. And Curly Q, when you talk about the D9 series, what exactly do you want to learn in the D9 series? You want to learn the history of? You want to learn the, you know, Todd said gray and ugly Russia. Oh, yeah. What do you want to learn? We're to learn about it. What do you want to shoot me an email at drkenstruth@gmail.com and if you got show ideas or if you got things that you want to learn about, let me know. Sir John said, nah, don't take the bait. I ain't late. Been here eating a slice of red velvet cake that my girlfriend loves to make, just like Dr. Ken loves to be great, and soon. And we'll try a cold mushroom milkshake. Never, man, look. On that note, by itself. Dude, absolutely not. That is never going to happen. Ugh. I went to a place on King Drive, and the girl said, oh, no. We only serve mushroom coffee. I was like, nope. Absolutely not. Nope. First person came to my mind, Sir Chops. Never gonna do mushroom coffee. Ever. Thank you for the comment, Curly Q. That's a great suggestion. True D say recommend the movie Moscow on the Hudson. Ooh, isn't that a love story? What are you talking about? Isn't that a love story? I'm gonna have to give Trudy and Sir Chance.
Quiet.
The Todd, you get a pass today. Sir Chance and Trudy, gotta give it to you. Gotta give it to you. Hey, it was great being here. I'm gonna do my level best to get here tomorrow. I'm gonna be traveling. Hopefully I can get some good Wi-Fi so I can chill. So anyway, God bless, take care, be safe. Keep Kwanda in your prayers. Please do that. Let me go back through this YouTube chat to make sure I didn't miss anybody. What's up, Jasmine, Jazz West, SC, True D, Curly Q. Let me see. I know Sir Chance is here. Todd, LT, what's going on? See if I missed anybody. Boom, 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 boom. Bar. What's the weather looking like? It's nice. It's gonna be nice tonight. It's really chill out tonight. So had a good time. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. Oh, and Camille, thank you. What's up? And Lucretia, thanks for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. God bless. Take care. Be safe. If you don't have to drive, don't drive. Folks are crazy. Yes, they are. I'm just saying. So have a great one. Don't work too hard. Take it easy. And I will see you on the flip. Deuces. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit my arrow up. Make sure you let other people know that we're here and they can subscribe to the show.